Welcome to the self-running demo for IntelliTrack StratusStockroom. StratusStockroom is a powerful, yet easy-to-use web-based inventory control application. StratusStockroom is a cloud-based solution for inventory control that is securely accessed using a web browser from anywhere with an internet connection. With StratusStockroom, you know where your inventory is, how much inventory you have on hand, and when inventory was received in or issued out of the system. The advantages of using a SaaS product for your inventory control needs are numerous and include things like rapid deployment throughout the organization, immediate access to product updates and new features, access from anywhere with an internet connection and web browser, built-in help resources and access to technical support, the ability to easily expand the system throughout your company by adding additional user licenses, and little to no investment required for IT infrastructure. Simply point your web browser to the secure URL web address, enter your username and password to log in, and start using the system. Once you've successfully logged into the application, we're ready to start using it. Again, because this is a SaaS web-based application, the interface from a PC side is accomplished using a web browser. All of the data that is captured and stored within our application happens up on a secure server that's housed in a data center that we maintain on your behalf. With your subscription and license, you have the ability to log in and access the system, use it as you need to, and track your material. The first thing we're going to look at today is actually how to set the system up, and a couple of different data components that are within the application that do need to be predefined in order to start using the system successfully. When you first log into the application, you will actually be presented with a Setup Assistant wizard, which will walk you through the setup process and some of the data elements we're about to look at. If I were to choose this option here, that would open that wizard, but because I've already actually processed or performed that step, I don't need to do it again. So instead, let's come in and look at Manage Company as the first step. Underneath the company, we have a hierarchy of different concepts and components that I've set up and predefined. At a highest level within our system, we've identified a sample company. That's the name of this company for the purposes of our demonstration today. If we edit the sample company and we take a look at some of the options, the first thing of course is the concept that what is the name of your company? That's something you obviously define. Whether or not you are going to allow for multiple divisions, what the general address is of your company, who the main contact person is for your company, and we also allow you to brand the product yourself. If you have a company graphic that you'd like to upload and display when you're using the system, you can do that by choosing it, uploading the picture, go ahead and accept that, and the next time you log into the system, the main screen will display your own company logo. Let's go back to Manage Company and take a look at one of the other concepts, which is the difference between now division and site. Division is essentially an operational concept, a virtual concept. You define multiple divisions underneath your company based upon what your inventory control needs are, because each division allows you to set certain options for how you want the system to behave. So for example, my material management division, it has a unique address, it has a unique contact, but also has a unique set of options. And for my material management option, it's important for me to default to unit of measure each. It does accept multiple sites, multiple units of measure. I do want to record serial numbers, lots, and expiration dates. All of these options are turned on. Additionally, I have the system automating the process of generating numbers for issue transactions and receipt transactions, as well as return transactions. If we take a look at the supplies control division, I have some different options set for this division. Notice for supplies control, it is not important for me to bother tracking serial numbers, lots, or expiration dates, or multiple sites or units of measure. Stockroom functionality, I do also have it though tracking automatic order numbering. So the division concept allows you to really control how you want the system to behave, the types of data that you want to collect or be prompted for when you're working with inventory, depending on the user that's logged in, the division they're associated with, and of course the site that they're working within underneath that division. So that brings us to talking about sites. We can have multiple sites, and where division is somewhat more of a virtual concept, site is going to be typically something that's a lot more concrete. And as an example here, I have a main building and a front office. These are two physical spaces that I'm going to track inventory in, and I've defined them as separate sites within the system. We do have some options that exist at the site level, just like we did at the division level. And if we come in and we edit the site, again, we can give the site obviously a unique name, indicate the address, the person that's responsible for that site, and then also set options. So I can say that one site requires sublocations and min-max values, while it doesn't need to be concerned with negative inventory, immediate count updates, or count reinforcements. We'll talk about these options in more detail at a later time in the demo. So the important thing is that we understand the differences in concept between company, division, and site. Other important concepts to understand in the product before you start using it include your location scheme that you need to set up and define. And if underneath each site in the product that your user is associated with, you can edit and identify a concept of locations. Locations are essentially the lowest level down to which where you're tracking material. For example, in this case, I would have a location 101, I would have a location 102, and these are described as row 1, shelf 1, row 1, shelf 2. We could have a more complicated structure with 3 levels, like row A, shelf 1, bin X. You can manipulate, identify, and control the locations that you have defined in the system. You provide them with a name. This name is typically barcoded, and a barcode is applied to the location that you can scan anytime you put material into or pull material from that location, and a description of what that location is, more friendly to read and understand about it. You can have as many locations as you like in the system, and you can also have sublocations created within the system. Now, I'm not using any, but you can have a location within a location, which again will help with greater control for understanding where material is located and tracking the location of inventory within your system. The other concept to understand is items, and I have a simple item list right now defined in my system. If we look at editing one of the existing item numbers, we can take a look at the data fields that are available. You have the item number or part number field, which is the main value that you're going to use to identify this particular item. 1001, we have an alternate number field. This would be something else that I could scan and cross-reference and understand that if I scan 1001-1, it points me to 1001, which happens to be a vacuum that I'm tracking. We have models that you can identify with the drop-down list here. I happen to have a model called Heavy Power. We have manufacturers. Again, you populate and load these drop-down lists with the data that's meaningful to you. Categories that we can use to help identify and segregate and report on the different types of material that we have. A lengthy comment field. We can also attach a picture of the item if we have one in our system. And if I go into pictures, and I think I have a picture of a vacuum, I can go ahead and attach that, upload it into the system, and now a picture of a vacuum is tracked. We have 24 user-definable fields. You can store extra information like the color of the item, perhaps your sales rep, warranty information, anything else that's unique to this item number that you may want to store, you can store and track in these user-defined fields. We also set up and define units of measure. If the item happens to exist in multiple units of measure, you set those up here. This is also where you assign a valuation to one of these items so that you can help track and understand the dollar value that you have in inventory for a given item or overall within the system when you run reports. And lastly, you can identify and specify reorder points for this item. And for my main building, I want to make sure that I have at least 2, at most 5, and my reorder point is 3. So anytime this item happens to fall below 2, it'll show up on my reorder report and it'll let me know that, hey, I need to reorder 3 of these because it's running low. I'd like to review one more piece of information regarding setup of information in the system before we start moving forward and actually performing some inventory transactions. And that includes taking a look at the lookup values within the system, which I just referred to on the previous section of the demo. The lookups include categories, manufacturers, models, and units of measure. Very intuitive, straightforward to enter new lookups and populate these with whatever is meaningful to your company. For example, if I had a new category that I wanted to enter into the system, new tools, I give it a description that would be the same, and add it, it simply adds it to the system, and that's a new value that's in my drop-down list for categories. The same applies for manufacturers, models, or units of measure. Also, I'd like to explain the concept of customers. Customers are entered into the system using the Add Customer button up in the top right. We define a name, telephone, email, address, all your basic contact information for a customer. And then we also can identify underneath each customer multiple ship-to addresses. So for my example here, industrial supplies, I have a 88 Elm Street address and a 3014 X Street address. The customers are entered into the system, and those are actually entities that when I issue material out, I'm going to issue it to a customer. So while it may actually be truly a customer, some of our users will actually set up more internal type customers like the marketing department or the accounting department, and that's just as good. Again, it's an identifier for you to use however you like, whatever makes sense for your organization. If the material is being consumed internally or externally, if it's being consumed by perhaps employees or departments or actual customers where you're shipping product to, you can define your customers however makes sense. Similarly, your vendors are also set up and defined just like your customers, with a vendor basic contact information as well as the ship-to address for that vendor. And this is used to associate with material that is received into the system. So when I perform a receipt transaction, I'm going to indicate what vendor am I receiving from and what ship-to address am I receiving from. Let's look at performing a receipt on the desktop browser application. You choose the Stockroom option from the menu and click on Receipt, which opens up your receipt form. If you have the auto number feature turned on, your order number will be automatically populated. Otherwise, you should put in an order number to match up against here in the order number field. A date field will open up, which should be also auto-populated with today's date. If you need to adjust this, you can drop the calendar control down and make the appropriate adjustment. You can choose the vendor that is shipping the material or that has supplied the material to you, who you want to track who you are receiving it from, along with their ship to. You can also populate, there are 4 user-defined fields here at the header, and then we basically move down and indicate where we're receiving material in to during this transaction. And I'm going to choose my first location, 101. These data elements could also be scanned in using a keyboard wedge scanner just as easily, or keyed in using the keyboard, but here I'm choosing the drop-down value. So I can indicate a vacuum. I can indicate the unit of measure, which is each. I can indicate a lot, which happens to be A23, and then the quantity that I'm receiving. And I'm receiving 3 of these. If there's a comment that I want to make, I can also populate the comment field. I click Add, and it adds it to my line item detail. I repeat this process by choosing the next item number that I'm receiving, populating any unique data elements like unit of measure, as well as receipt quantity, and again clicking Add. And this process simply repeats until we've built the entire receiving order for this particular receipt transaction. I'm going to scan one more item, unit of measure, lot, receive quantity, and notice that the fields here on the right, the lot, serial number, expiration dates, they appear or don't appear based upon the way I have the items set up in my system. So they're dynamic, and the screen automatically changes depending on the configuration of the item and the fields that I've said I need to have collected when we're dealing with this particular part number. So once I'm done, you save the entire transaction, and that processes. It writes the data, makes all the adjustments to the database, and adjusts your inventory. Now let's take a look at performing an issue transaction on the desktop browser application. If we choose Stockroom Issue, we open up the issue form. And this is for any material that we want to issue out to a customer or an employee or a department, and we want to decrement our inventory by some value. So the first step is to choose the customer or the department or the employee that we're issuing material out against and tracking it to these entities. I'm going to choose a particular customer. I'm going to choose their ship to address. I could populate the user defined fields, and then I'm going to choose the material that I'm actually issuing to them. I specify the site that I'm working in, the material that I'm issuing, the location that I'm issuing it from, and notice when I drop down location, it's actually showing me all the locations where this item number exists. Also the lots, the quantity on hand, and the unit of measure in that location. So I'm going to go ahead and select a particular location. I could have easily scanned that in. It shows me my available quantity. I'm going to choose to issue. I can increment this number. I could record a comment, and then I'm going to add this line item to the overall transaction. And then essentially you repeat this process. Scan your part number or choose it from a drop-down list. Scan your location or choose it from a drop-down list or key it in. And then enter the quantity that you're issuing as part of this transaction. Once you save the issue transaction, it processes it all and decrements rather your valuations in inventory, and the transaction is complete. A third type of transaction that you can perform in Stratus Stockroom is a return transaction, and you choose Stockroom option then return to open up the return form. Now, the logic of a return in terms of its effect on your inventory is simply to increment your inventory by the value of those items you're returning back into the system. It's essentially a type of receipt, but we trap the fact and record the fact that it's actually a return transaction, so you can understand that it came back as part of some previous order, and we track and record that in the history when this transaction is performed. So we choose our customer that we're returning material from. Perhaps we choose a ship to address that we're also returning from, and we could record a reference. If you look, the reference will actually allow me to look up the history information. Any orders that I had issued material out against that I'm now returning can be recorded here. So we have that connection between what originally went out and now what is coming back. Then we simply indicate the site, the location, the part number, and you'll see these fields here on the right shift dynamically based on the part number. There we go. Unit of measure is each, and then the quantity that I'm returning. And it just so happens that it's 1. We repeat this process if necessary, if we need to add multiple line items to this return transaction. Otherwise, we simply save the return transaction. And again, it records all of this to history. It properly, in this case, increments our inventory based on the fact that we're returning stock, and allows me to have visibility to exactly what went on in my system. There are 2 different types of move transactions that can be performed using the StratusStockroom browser desktop application. If you choose Inventory Move, they are single move or mass move. To perform a single move, you simply can record a job reference number. You can choose the item number that you wish to move. Then you choose the source location and site. Choose the destination location and site, and then simply choose the quantity that you wish to move. Move and commit the transaction, and that inventory is relocated. Move was successful and the form clears. You're ready to perform the next move. To perform a mass move, choose Inventory Move Mass Move option. Populate your site data. You can choose a job reference number, indicate the location that you wish to move material from, the location that you wish to move it to, and process the transaction. All the inventory in location 201 will be relocated to 102. The form clears and you're ready to perform your next transaction. IntelliTrack's StratusStockroom includes a mobile application that runs on a mobile, ruggedized scanner similar to the one you see pictured here. IntelliTrack's StratusStockroom Mobile offers numerous advantages, one of which is the ability to allow a user to perform transactions wherever their material is located. Rather than having to bring material to a PC to perform a transaction, you're able to have a mobile computer like this in the palm of your hand and scan the material during a transaction, scan a location, enter your quantities, and then transmit that information when you're ready or real time back into the database. So not only is the ability to travel with the mobile scanner in your possession one of the advantages, but also the built-in barcode scanner that's included on devices like these allow for data validation to occur, quicker, more accurate data entry, and it's usually a much easier process for folks to take advantage of. IntelliTrack's StratusStockroom Mobile offers different methods of communication. There's a batch version, which means that the device is used out in the field, data is collected, and then it's brought back to a cradle, dropped in the cradle, and information is processed and sent up into the database. The other methodology is a real-time connection where the handheld is connected via a Wi-Fi connection, and as users are performing transactions, data is actually being transmitted and written up into the database real-time. A third methodology is the ability to leverage cellular networks. So if a batch connection doesn't work for you, and you don't have accessibility to a RF Wi-Fi network, then you can leverage a cellular network and transmit data over a 3G or 4G data connection back into the database. We'll be taking a look at now several of the transactions that are available to you within IntelliTrack's StratusStockroom Mobile. Let's now turn our attention to working with IntelliTrack StratusStockroom Mobile. We launched the application by double-clicking on the Stratus Mobile icon that's on my desktop. The application brings you to a login screen, and you need to log in using the same credentials that you use when you log into the browser desktop application. Check that you agree to the terms and log in. The first thing I'll point out, we discussed this a little earlier, is that IntelliTrack StratusStockroom Mobile can operate in different modes. So if we go to Tools and Settings, we can operate either in batch mode or RF mode. Batch mode requires a local copy of the database is downloaded to the mobile computer, and we work against that local copy that's stored on the mobile computer. Once I've completed performing my transactions, I bring the mobile computer back to a cradle, dock it in the cradle, and then transmit the information to and from that handheld mobile computer. In RF mode, the application is connected to a Wi-Fi network and is accessing the system real-time, updating information as a user performs each transaction. So for today, I'm going to leave the application in batch mode, and we're going to start out by downloading a brand new copy of the data that I have up in my system. It logs in. The unit, this handheld computer, is docked in a cradle right now. It's communicating with the hosted database that's up in the cloud, and it's downloading all of the latest information from that database. You can see this is a very quick and efficient process. As soon as it's completed, it logs out, and I'm able to now start working with the handheld mobile computer. There are some settings to point out. We can choose preferences, and you can specify that you want the data purged after you upload it. We can actually view inventory or view the collected data that's on the portable. We can actually manage and look at locations and items that are on the portable. So the nice thing is that the database that's hosted up on the IntelliTrack StratusStockroom website is actually available to you right here on the mobile computer. Next, let's take a look at performing some transactions. Performing a receipt transaction in IntelliTrack StratusStockroom Mobile is very easy. Choose the Order button, tap on Receipts, and you're taken to the receipt screen. We first need to set up the order header record for this particular receipt, and we do that by entering in a receipt transaction number. We need to choose a vendor that we're receiving from, and then we need to specify the details, the line item details that are associated with this receipt. We choose our site, we scan in a location, we can scan in a part number, we can indicate a quantity, and if you notice, when I scanned part number 1001, this is a part number where I require a lot to be collected during receipt. So the lot field dynamically appears and we enter in a lot number. We save that, and then we repeat the process for the next line item that's associated with this receiving order. Again, I scan the location, I enter and scan the item number, and then I punch in the quantity that I'm receiving. And as you can see, we're starting to build the line items that are associated with this receiving order. Once I'm done, I click the check mark, the screen clears, and I'm ready to perform my next receipt, or I can go ahead and hit cancel and come back to the main menu. To perform an issue transaction on the mobile computer in IntelliTrack StratusStockroom Mobile, you choose Orders, Issues, and you're brought to the Issue header screen. We need to populate an issue transaction order number, and then we need to specify a bill to. We choose the department or external customer that we're issuing material out to. We can also choose the shipping address that we're issuing material out to, and then we move to the detail screen. One point to make here: the order number would be automatically, or could be automatically, generated if I were operating with data collection in the RF mode, but because I'm operating under batch, I need to manually create the order number. On the detail screen, we begin to add the line items that we're issuing out against this. We do so by scanning the location, scanning the item number, and then scanning the quantity that we're issuing. As we go through this process, you'll see that the line items will begin building in the detail section of this order. And of course, validation is always happening. If I scan a part number incorrectly, the system warns me and says that's an invalid item number. I need to repeat that process and make sure that I scan the accurate part number. Data validation is a very important aspect of the way the system works. Invalid location for that site. So I need to make sure I have the right site and I scan the right location. Again, another example of data validation. Once the issue transaction is complete, I click the check mark and I'm back to the main screen for issues, and I can perform the next issue or hit the cancel button and back out to the main screen. Performing a move function on the mobile application is accomplished by tapping Move from the main menu and choosing one of two options, either a single move or a mass move. To perform a single move, tap Single Move, enter the site that you're working within. This can be accomplished by scanning the site or keying it in. Enter the source location that you're moving from, the part number that you want to move, and the quantity of material that you'll be moving, in this case 2. Then choose the destination site. Again, indicate the site that you're moving to, the location that you're moving to. By scanning, click the check mark, the screen clears, and the move has been processed. To perform a mass move, again, tap the Move button on the main screen, choose Mass Move, enter the from site of where you're moving material from, enter the from location of where you're moving material from, and then the to site, and that can be the same or different. The to location, and when I click the check mark, it's going to move everything from location 1-01 to location 2-02 within the same site, main building. So I'm going to go ahead and click my check mark, the transaction processes, the screen clears, and I'm ready to perform the next mass move transaction. Performing a physical count function in IntelliTrack StratusStockroom Mobile is accomplished by tapping on the physical count button on the main screen. The first step is to select the site that you're working in and then scan the location that you're at. Once you've scanned the location, scan the item number that you're about to count, and then perform your physical count and enter the quantity. Once you click the check mark at the bottom of the screen will clear and the application is ready for the next location that you're going to count. repeat the process as needed, and of course validation is always happening, and it's an easy, straightforward, and quick process where all of these items are being validated. If the field happens to be, if the item number happens to require an additional field like a serial number, a lot, or an expiration date, the application will prompt you for that based upon the item number that you're working with. And that's it. The process repeats until you're done. Click the X, go back to the main screen, sync, and transmit your data by uploading it to the PC. When it comes to data analysis, there are a number of ways to look at data and understand what's going on in the system. There are a number of different views that you can open up by choosing inventory data, and this view is a main snapshot basically of what your inventory looks like at the present time. This list is multi-paged. In some cases it's going to have many pages. It's based upon obviously what's contained within this site. The list can be filtered by choosing a particular location, or it can be filtered by choosing a particular item. Alternatively, you can clear those filters and you can open up again a main view here of the main building and choose to reorder the columns. You can simply drag from one column into another location. You can filter using the open boxes up here to understand if I only want to look at item 1001. When I type that in and hit enter, it filters the list so that only 1001 appears. You can also make adjustments by clicking on the adjust button there and choosing to adjust the inventory quantity on hand from the main browser desktop application. These lists can also, once you get them looking how you like, can be exported using the buttons at the bottom of the screen to PDF, to an Excel spreadsheet, to an RTF or a CSV file. For example, if I click the export PDF, the application immediately goes out to the database, creates a PDF, downloads it to my machine, and I can open that PDF and email this as a report to somebody that might be interested in looking at the data for, in this case, all of the vacuums in the main building. What do I have? How many do I have? What's the information? What's the unit of measure? There's also a whole reporting section that's built into the application, and under reports you'll see a history view. Much like the inventory view, this is a view of all the historical transactions, what's gone on in the system. And just like the previous page that we just were looking at, again, the same controls are accessible to you. You can drag and drop, you can filter the fields, you can query and look at a particular date and limit the list to just that date. You can also look at by site. And this, again, the same export options are down here and available to you to export into, for example, directly into a spreadsheet with a click of a button. The spreadsheet can then be used, sliced and diced in whatever way is appropriate for you. You can run calculations and again email that out to somebody. There's also formal reports that are built into the application. If we choose reports, view print reports, the report tool comes up. We're able to choose a particular type of report, whether it's an inventory report, a custom report, or a stockroom report. Depending on the type that you choose, the report names that are accessible to you change. This list are stockroom reports that are built into the system and that you're able to choose and run, and each one of these includes different criteria by which you can filter. So here's an issue by order number, and this shows you an example of a particular order number, IS10006, and the items that were actually issued out as part of this order. Again, this can be printed or sent immediately to a particular file type. Here's a PDF. Again, I open it and right away I could email that report. So there are a number of different pre-built reports in here. If we look at some of the inventory reports, one report that's often pretty important for people is the ability to run the reorder report. This report will show you anything that's running low in the system, the minimum quantity on hand, the maximum, and the reorder quantity. History by dates. And then lastly, there are also is the ability to create barcodes with the system. So if I choose reports, view print barcode labels, we get a list of options for our barcodes, and we can print custom barcodes, location barcodes, item barcodes, item with description barcodes. We choose the size of the label that we want, and then we can filter the data. So I could choose 1004 to 1004. This is the only barcode that I want to print, and when I hit submit, there it is. All I do is I send this off to my barcode printer, and I've got my barcode. The End User Report Designer is a very powerful and capable tool that is licensed additionally to the standard product, but gives you new capabilities to extract data from the system. If there's a standard report that doesn't quite meet your criteria, the End User Report Designer will allow you to create a custom report that you can upload to the system and include it as an available report for all users. We're going to take a look at that right now. This is accessed by choosing Reports, Install End User Report Designer. That will install the application. It's a locally run application that does get downloaded and installed on a computer. And then once that's done, you can open up the application by clicking on the icon for it. And you're working within the IntelliTrack End User Report Designer. This is a tool similar to Microsoft Access Report Designer or Crystal Reports. And gives you immense capability to create and customize reports. You could start from scratch and open up a report design wizard, or you could open up an existing report that's in the system and maybe look something like what you want. For example, inventory by category. I could open this up and it actually goes out and pulls down from the server a copy of this report, your unique report, and opens it up in design mode. Now there's full documentation available to you for how to work with this utility, but it's certainly helpful if you have somebody that has some experience with a report writer working in this application. You can switch back and forth between the design mode and the print preview, and when I click submit, it goes out and shows you this is how the report will look. I've already created an example, and if I go back to the designer and I open up a custom report, if I go under custom, select report, I have this inventory by category 2, and I took the standard inventory by category report and then I changed the look and feel of it a little bit. I added my own style to it, I added some new fields and some calculations, and now if you look at the HTML view, it's a different look. I've even uploaded a graphic into the report. So when we save this report, it actually saves a copy to the server and includes it again as an available custom report for all users. So I went ahead, made the changes that I needed to make in the report designer. I saved the option. I saved the custom report. I used the save option to commit that changed report and upload it to the server. And now if I log into my application and I choose reports, view print reports, I can choose the report type custom, and in the drop down here are my two custom reports, inventory by category 2. This is the one that I just created and modified. And here it is. A custom report that displays the data how I want to see it. We've got grouped by category. I have totals, I have summations for my unit cost fields. And just like I can with any standard report in the application, I can choose a particular file type and save it or export it from the system, and I can print it to a printer, obviously. But the really great thing is that this is available to any user that logs into the system, and they can access and run this report. So ideally, this is designed for probably an administrator type of role that wants to build these reports, upload them back into the system, and make them viewable and accessible to all users of the application. Thanks for taking the time to view this self-running demo for IntelliTrack StratusStockroom. Again, StratusStockroom is a powerful yet easy-to-use cloud-based solution for inventory control. We are happy to offer you a 30-day evaluation of the system. We will set up a unique demo account for you to log in and take the system for a test drive. Please contact us by calling 888-583-3008, option 8, or by emailing us at sales@intellitrack.com. A regional account manager is standing by and happy to assist you.